if you don't want to, just to be clear, if you don't want to ask your question personally, because you maybe feel a little bit insecure or you don't want to be like live on the air, perfectly fine. You jump into Discord. There is a channel called the Q&A channel. You ask your question in the Q&A channel, and Morny will actually jump in and he will ask you your question on your behalf. So if you feel too insecure and you don't want to jump into voice channel, that is perfectly fine. We have you covered. One of my mods will jump in, either Morny or Andy will jump in, and they will ask the question on your behalf. But your questions will be best asked on the Discord, because that's where we collect the questions and sort of make sure that we answer all of them. Garmelvar, how you doing, brother?
Good. How are you, sir?
Not bad. What's your question, bro?
I'm just wondering, based on what we've seen so far, how do you feel about the Drakthyr evokers being comparative to, Death Knights, Demon Hunters?
Yeah.
By extension, if you're going to do Dark Rangers, all that stuff. How do you feel they'll live up to them? How do you feel about them so far?
So I'm actually very excited for the Drakthyr. My reasoning is sort of, so this is the first time we're getting a ranged hero class ever. So that's really cool to see a sort of range. It's also a mid-range class, so they're sort of a lot more focused around movement and making sure that they're not so close that they get trouble for melee abilities, but also not that far away that they can't actually cast. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they play out. The thing that actually excites me about this is the very thing that's peeving a lot of people about this, and it is the fact that for the first time ever, we have a class that is designed for a very specific race, which suddenly opens up a lot of freedom for the artists, where the class is informed by the race, and the race also informs the class. So your animation capabilities really opens up here. The kind of animations that you can come up with really opens up, because this race is only ever going to be this class. And then, of course, in the future, when the Drakthyr will finally learn how to be warriors and the like, they would also have really cool animations, because their design was so intrinsically linked to the evoker class and having that heavy movement and stuff like that built into it. So I'm very excited for the Drakthyr. I'm specifically excited for their story, because their story seems to hold a lot of sort of secrets and nuggets about early Deathwing, or Neltharion before he became Deathwing. We may actually have the opportunity to learn, what is ultimately who Deathwing was before Deathwing was Deathwing, because I believe the first times we actually as players interacted with Neltharion, he was already under the influence of the old gods. He was already struggling with their whispers, and while they weren't controlling him directly, he was already very much like hearing their whispers. So this is going to be an opportunity for us to maybe find out about Neltharion long before the whispers became a thing. What was he like? What were his goals? Things like that, So very interesting story around who the original Neltharion was and why the Drakthyr was ultimately designed. Now, from if you're asking me from a gameplay perspective, Blizzard have just added 2 more classes to their 37 class pool already, which now needs to be balanced. Are they going to be able to do that? I don't know. They're already finding it troubling just balancing the classes as is, so this might be a real challenge. But if you permit me, Gar, I would like to open it just a little bit more, because not only am I very excited for the Drakthyr in the Evoker class, but I'm actually super excited for the talent trees, specifically now that we know what the talent trees are. So the old school talent trees used to be sort of straight up improving the abilities that you already have. These new talent trees actually is the way in which you get the abilities that your class is going to use, which is phenomenal. So you don't actually get abilities for your class as you level up. You get talent points, and the talent points unlock abilities that you will use in your rotation, which might make it easier for Blizzard to actually balance classes. Because now they can have really powerful and cool abilities for every single class, knowing full well that you're not going to be able to have every single one of the really powerful, really cool abilities because you have a limited amount of talent points that you can spend. So maybe this gives them a lot more freedom in actually balancing the game. But I would like to know, what's your opinion of Drakthyr and Evoker?
I agree with you on the talent point, and I'll bring up something about that after. But I thought it was interesting they phrased them as Neltharion shock troopers.
Yeah.
And I guess you could essentially say that for Arthas as the Death Knights,
Yes.
Demon Hunters for Illidan.
Mhm.
Thought that was interesting. When this expansion was announced, I was hoping for a new race or class, and we got both. So that works for me 100%.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we had the same classes for so long, and it needed to be time for something new, in my opinion.
I mean, I think the talent trees are going to make every single one of the classes feel new. I just wish I'm so annoyed that Blizzard still don't have the animations ready for casters to actually use their staves whilst casting.
I agree with that 100%.
You know,
As a Warlock main, that bothers me for a while.
Dude, I should use my staff to cast my incinerates. I should use my staff animation should determine what I'm casting. Otherwise, what's the point of having the staff in the first place? So I really hope that this is the expansion where we eventually get that staff animation. So you cast using your staff rather than just, whatever. I hate the fact that my staff just sits on my fucking back and it basically has no place or purpose. So how does it grant me power? Your weapon is the largest piece of stat on your gear, and yet I don't use this weapon, so where is this power coming from? It's on my back. It annoys me. So I really hope we get that. But I think even without the evokers, I think a lot of people would have been very excited because the talent trees makes this all feel like brand new,
Yeah, the one thing that bothered me is that they apparently took away everyone's interrupt and are putting that into the tree.
They're putting it into the class tree. So like I said, so the way the new talent trees are working for Blizzard now is your spellbook. Remember in the past, your spellbook would be sort of unlocking different abilities as you level. Your spellbook now is going to have very few abilities in it. And the abilities that they've already said is going to be in it is sort of like flavor things, like pickpocket, you'll unlock at a certain level, and maybe even like a rogue will unlock stealth at some point in their spellbook, right? But everything else, so all of your utility, your sprint ability, your interrupt ability, your sort of dodge abilities, things like that, it's all moving to the talent tree. Now, your utility abilities, so sprint and sort of quick step, things like that, those are moving to the class tree. And then all of your damage abilities is moving to your spec tree. So you will be able, absolutely, to have, on a fight where you need to interrupt, you'll be able to switch to that build that gives you a lot of interrupt abilities. And then maybe on a fight where you don't need interrupts at all, you can switch to something that provides you with more movement speed or, a lot more abilities to get free of things that might slow you down, stuff like that, right? So the utility, all of it now comes down to what are the tools that I'm going to need in this fight, and then speccing towards that fight. So you really do have the ability to optimize yourself for an individual encounter all the way down to the utility abilities that you're going to be running with.
Oh yeah, that looking at that way, that makes good sense. And then I also thought it was cool. They said that based on some builds, you can actually get 2 Covenant abilities, which I thought,
oh yeah.
I think they specifically said Druid with Convoke, and I think the Venthyr one. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You're gonna lose other abilities. So maybe, maybe as a Warlock, you'll have access to, the bolt from the Necro Lords, but also you'll have access to the blink from the Ravendrath. Okay, so you have access to both of those, and that's great. But maybe you give up both of your dots as a result of it. So in order to get the bolt from the Necrolords, you can't take Corruption, and in order to get the sort of teleport from Ravendrath, you can't take Agony. So you're an Infliction Warlock with no fucking dots. So how's that going to play out for you? Is that a worthwhile trade? Is there a build that you can go where it makes up for the fact that you've now basically turned yourself into a single target, big boom boom kind of thing, right? So yeah, I would argue that this is why I love the new talent trees. It gives Blizzard the ability to really go apeshit with what they add to it, knowing full well that you can't have all of it. So you can only have, say, 3 or 4 or 5 of those abilities, and you're going to have to make the decision which 5 of those abilities it is that you want to take, because you can't take all of them. So Blizzard can really go above and beyond with what they want to add to it, knowing that you are limited in your choices.
Oh yeah, if only my wish is that they'd bring back meta for Demon.
Sadly, Warlock, Demon form, look, the reason I hate the fact that we lost Demon form is that Demonology lost a lot of its flavor when Demon form went away. Because they had to fundamentally change the playstyle of Demonology after we lost Demon form. Now, from a lore perspective, them removing Demon form from the Warlock was a godsend, because I was always sort of happy and hated the fact that Demon form is there. A Warlock's greatest power, from a lore perspective, is their ability to resist the demons whilst also pulling from their power. If a Warlock uses so much foul and dips so deep into the foul that they physically turn into a demon, they have gone too far and they are beyond saving, right? Because they've now opened themselves 100% to the demons, which means they can't come back from it. So from a lore perspective, the fact that a Warlock could turn into a demon is a bridge too far. You know, they shouldn't be able to, unless, of course, they're now permanent demons. And then, of course, they leave Azeroth and go to the Twisting Nether because that's where the demons would be. But so I like the idea that they've removed it for class lore reasons, but I hate that they removed it because it broke the way that Demonology used to play. Because that was actually fun. I don't know if you remember Warlords of Draenor, Demon Hunter, Demonology Warlocks, but they were sick.
Yeah,
It was one of the greatest classes you could play. Demon Bolt, 4 of them, just hitting like an absolute fucking truck. It was so much fun to play Demonology back in the day. But yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I remember Blizzard saying, we'd rather you not play Demonology. That really bothered me. I was like, man, that's the...
I mean, they knew they were going to change it fundamentally, so that's why they just sort of went, look, we're not fixing it just for the next 2 years, because we know we're going to be changing it from the ground up completely. So yeah, sad days ahead, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's see what they do now. Let's see how classes play out in the future.
Yeah. All right, Accolonn, thanks for chat with me. Appreciate it, man.
Gar, thank you so much for asking the question. Really appreciate it, bro. Take care of yourself, man.
You too, bud.